Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Jonathan Granoff. I'm the president of the Global Security Institute, and I'm here representing the International Peace Bureau. The world is in a crisis. It is challenged as never before. Our environment is challenged. There are people who do not have enough to eat, and we are threatened with nuclear weapons, just as we were at the height of the Cold War. And amongst us today are leaders of the world who can speak from the moral position that they deserve because they are the recipients of the Nobel Peace Award and because they have put their lives on the line for the values that humanity needs. We have before you two very important documents. One is the Charter for a World Without Violence. The very beginning of it sums up, in the shortest possible way, our values. Violence is a preventable disease. And the people you will hear from this morning have cures for this disease. And the organizations here, Amnesty International, the American Friends Service Committee, the International Peace Bureau, International Physicians for the Prevention of Nuclear War, and others are networks of citizens stepping up to provide that cure. The other document poses three core questions that everyone must ask all political leaders. What are your plans to address crushing poverty? What are your plans to protect the environment? What are your plans to eliminate nuclear weapons? These are questions that we should all be posing. And now I would like to hand over the floor to each of the individual Nobel laureate recipients to say a few words and then open it up to questions from the press. And we will begin, go right down the row, begin with Betty Williams, and then His Holiness the Dalai Lama, and then Mikhail Gorbachev, and then Mohammed Yunus, and then Mairead Corrigan Maguire. Miss Williams.
Buongiorno. My Italian's getting so much better. This is a wonderful document. You know, I was talking to children yesterday at a hospital, and I said to them, the greatest killer in our world is not bombs and bullets and knives. The greatest killer in our world is apathy. People who don't care enough to do anything, or people who think there's nothing they can do. If we are not helping to solve the problems of our world for our brothers and sisters, then we are part of that problem. Everyone in this room, I am sure, is committed to wanting a non-violent, just and peaceful world. And in the condition our world is in at the moment, that seems like a far-off dream, a great ideal that we will never, ever achieve. But sometimes the darker it appears, and you work hard, but the darker it appears, you think you're never, ever going to see that light at the end of the tunnel. Many areas in the world have thought exactly the same thing, including my own beloved Northern Ireland. People thought they'd never, ever achieve that light at the end of the tunnel, but they did. Using the techniques of non-violence is not some sort of idealistic dream. It is very hard work. When I am in positions sometimes where I see children suffer, I'm a human being. And so I feel I want to really hurt somebody because they're hurting the most precious resource our world has, her children. But if I'm really going to be a teacher, I will take that anger that I feel and I will transform it into something positive for those children that I love. That's our commitment sitting up here on this podium. And we want to try and let the rest of the world know there is a solution to the disease of violence. Jody Williams, my beloved Laureate sister, says, violence is a choice. We don't choose to use violence to achieve political aspirations. So, and this document, all our thoughts are in it, but Jonathan Granoff put this document together. We owe him a great deal of thanks. Thank you. That's it.
Nothing to say.
Please, please.
Except admiration, the appreciation. I think all the participants seems, I think, participate with full of enthusiasm and self-confidence and determination. That's wonderful. According to my own experience, and also I think in many cases, without losing self-confidence and determination, then no matter what difficulties, finally can achieve. Of course, your goal must be just, truthful, something sort of, what's it, compassionate sort of goal, or something good for other, then no matter what the difficulties, you have to work. And some worthwhile sort of goal, a just goal, even not materialize our own lifetime, doesn't matter. We have to start. And then other people will follow. Then eventually that can achieve. So sometimes I express, I like also unrealistic ideas. That means, number one, this century should be century of dialogue. And eventually, our whole world should be demilitarized world. And for that, there are two ways. One, some control about weapons, and already, I think, started there's certain steps to reduce nuclear weapon. These are a wonderful beginning. Now, eventually, total ban nuclear weapon, then biological weapons. That's one way. And then I think some Nobel laureate already committed some sort of, what's it, restriction, arms trade. I think that's very, very important, yes. Then another method, unified force, create unified force. Already German, Franco-German unified force already there, I heard. So that spirit, I think, should spread. Now, for example, European Union. All the Union member states eventually create unified force. That is the best guarantee, no longer any military conflict among them. So perhaps too much, I think, because what you call presumptuous, isn't it? I often, you see, express the Brussels European Union headquarters should move somewhere in Central Europe. Then NATO headquarters should move to Moscow. So then, you see, the suspicion certainly will reduce. Suspicion Distrust is, I think, one of the greatest obstacles. Even you have very good sort of plan. But if other side or other people, little suspicion, then difficult to achieve. So these, something like, I think this moment, I think unrealistic idea. But let us try some aim, and then step by step, gradually. Now, this is just, I think, too much. This is one thing. Then I want to mention something. Like these sort of ideas, a wonderful idea. Now we need someone who implemented these things. So one, my friend in Mexico, one lady, once she told me some sort of community or some village, some town, they create something like zone of peace. On a small level, small scale, but their own village or their own, say, you see, 10 families or 100 families, they sort of made some kind of, how to say, pledge. Oh, our community should be zone of peace. So no longer any violence, any quarrel. If you want quarrel or violence, go outside, not within that sort of, what's the area. Perhaps, I think, good. Small scale, small village. All the community member, we should discuss and create zone of peace in their own area. And accordingly, education within that sort of area and carried these sort of ideas to implement. Then see, next neighbor, next village, another village. First one village, then 10 village, then 100 village. Maybe one, my friend, actually, carrying, I think, that kind of program. I felt that's, I think, realistic. That instead of waiting some big change from your own sort of area, start small scale like that. Maybe one worthwhile to think. Otherwise, nothing to say.
Это 8-й форум наш, не собрание 8-е. Мы чувствуем себя всегда в Риме здесь уютно, ощущаем гостеприимство не только властей, но и граждан римлян. Мы всегда здесь в контакте с молодежью и с прессой. Поэтому я от имени всех лауреатов Нобелевской премии хочу поблагодарить Рим за гостеприимство, за ту помощь в этой непростой работе, которую мы делаем. Спасибо. Это первое. Второе. Что касается проблематики, которую мы обсуждали, и документов, вот они на столе. Работа над ними закончилась сегодня в 3 часа ночи. Вчера мы вели еще вечером дискуссию по этим документам, очень основательную. А вообще мы уже 2 года работали над тем, чтобы вот выработать этот документ. Не так просто сделать такой документ, который был понятен. Почему же даже в том случае, когда мы встречаемся с насилием, мы не должны браться за оружие, за то, чтобы на насилие отвечать насилием и таким образом еще больше увеличивать зло. Подумайте сейчас, каждый, и вы скажете, как же так, что это за программа, что в вашей личной жизни столько есть случаев, что вы должны были действовать, отвечая на что-то. Я должен сказать, мы дискутировали очень долго, особенно по вопросу, а как быть в тех случаях, когда насилие достигает больших размеров, сопровождается кровью, гибелью людей, разрушением. И в этом случае ничего не делать. Это была самая трудная задача, которую мы обсуждали вчера в конце. И мы пришли к такому выводу, что мы должны допустить в исключительных случаях это, для того, чтобы остановить насилие, остановить кровопролитие. Но это исключительные случаи. В принципе, мы должны стать на путь ненасилия. Я должен всех поблагодарить лауреатов Нобелевской премии за активное участие в работе этого форума. И я не думаю, что мы должны рассматривать эти документы как утопию. Тут все время, даже вот у моего друга Далай Ламы, он никак не определится. Это утопия, но кончил он хорошими словами. Все-таки это реальность. Задачи даже можно больше сделать, чем здесь написано. Да, история, в общем-то, все-таки не фатальна. В ней всегда есть место для инициатив, для того, чтобы найти альтернативу в самых трудных ситуациях. Вот на этом подходе построены эти документы. Более того, мы решили выделить небольшим документом по, так сказать, размерам, но очень важным по содержанию обращение ко всем и гражданам мира, и общественным организациям, чтобы они все задавали эти 3 вопроса, которые здесь сформулированы. Я думаю, Джонатан, вы их назвали, да? Я не смогу назвать, потому что я не владею английским. Но, тем не менее, вот они здесь. И это верно. Нам нужно, чтобы этот документ имел значение, чтобы он вызвал по всему миру желание протестовать против всякого насилия, кем бы оно ни допускалось. И добиваться решения проблем диалогом, действием институтов миротворческих и так далее. В самом деле, вот середина 80-х годов гонка вооружений достигла невероятных тогда опасных масштабов. И нам казалось, что уже нельзя остановить поезд, этот адский поезд, мчащийся с ядерным оружием, который нас тащил в пропасть. Мы на краю пропасти. И все же нам удалось остановить тогда гонку вооружений. Договориться не сразу, а постепенно договориться о сокращении ядерных вооружений, и удалось многое уже уничтожить. Хотя опять снова замедлился этот процесс. И кто-то опять собирается, размахивает ядерным оружием и собирается его применить. Причем как оружие первого удара, как оружие, которое будет применяться в превентивных ударах. Это опять отход уже назад. Это нельзя допустить и нельзя оставлять без внимания. Я только что вернулся из Соединенных Штатов Америки, где в Бостоне американские, российские, европейские и другие эксперты, политики, многие из тех, кто участвовал в предшествующей работе по прекращению ядерной гонки, высказали опасность большую, опять в связи с тем, что ядерное оружие может получить распространение. Если оно распространяется, то тогда открывается огромный шанс у террористов, которые не остановятся перед тем, чтобы не применить такое оружие. Но тогда удалось договориться. Я думаю, что и сейчас я вижу, какое настроение среди экспертов, среди общественных кругов, остановить это сползание опять с позиций, которые были заняты в 1987 году. И вот вам свежий пример, казалось бы, тоже ничего не удается. Сколько лет уже говорили о Киотском протоколе, и Соединенные Штаты все время игнорировали этот документ и тормозили весь процесс, вообще говоря. Но, тем не менее, в Бали договорились, сегодня, я думаю, вы уже знаете это, нашли компромисс. Значит, всегда надо не думать, что это перед вами утопия, что нет. Раз это делается людьми, то люди могут и остановить тот или иной процесс. Или, наоборот, поддержать, если это позитивный процесс. Я думаю, что вот вклад сессии, 8-й сессии нашего форума, Римского форума лауреатов Нобелевской премии, состоит в том, что он бросает вызов всему миру, всем гражданам, общественным организациям, политикам, интеллектуалам, не оставаться равнодушными, поскольку насилие сейчас гуляет по всему миру. И если мы просто опустим руки и сдадимся, то эта победа будет тех сил, которые хотят подорвать наше желание и стремление идти уже к глобальному, устойчивому, спокойному миру, где можно решать все проблемы бедности, безопасности, экологии. Я уверен, что этот документ сыграет свою роль, и мы постараемся его продвинуть, насколько это возможно, во все круги общественного мнения и государственные организации. Спасибо.
Thank you. Thank you. Good morning. I'll just pick up what President Gorbachev has just said about the document, that this is not utopia. I will put it the other way. I'll say world is changing so fast, and it's becoming faster and faster every day in terms of changes, in terms of what's coming up. If you are not bold, if you are not daring, we'll miss the chance. So even if it is a utopia, that's what the reality is right now, because small things won't make any difference to us anymore. So we have to go for the whole thing as we see what kind of world we want to create, and that's what the document is all about. And it's achievable, and it has to be done. And I think one of the problems that we have in the world today, that we are so busy enjoying ourselves on this planet. Those who are the fortunate to enjoy, they don't know where they're going. And this question is never raised. Where are we going? We are busy enjoying, playing games and whatever we have, but we don't even look to the window where we are and what is the destination we have. So this kind of defines the outline of the destination. This is the destination we would like to have. And we miss the chance because we don't involve our young generation. Our young generation in our education system, we are telling them all the time that do good in the school, have good grades, and then get a good job. Is this what the meaning of the whole world? Don't we have to have a class in their, as they grow up where they will be asked to write down what kind of world they would like to live in, what kind of world they would like to create? Each individual person has, this is the first task of education, that define the destination. When I will retire, when I grow up, what kind of world I will leave behind. So that each child, after go through the conversation and discussions and finally makes up his or her mind, this is her agenda, puts on the wall, this is the kind of world we would like to make. Hopefully this charter will influence those children, this is the kind of world that we would like to build. And then work for it. If all citizens of the world work for it, that's the world we will get. Not what our leaders are telling us what the world should be. It is what we want to be. That's the most important thing that we want to have. So we have to ask this question, all the questions that we raised here, how do we address the poverty, how do we address the disarmament, how do we address the environment to our children? And to ask the question, are we plunderers on this planet? Are we alien coming from another planet? so that we destroy this planet and enjoy ourselves. Or we are guests in this planet. We want to be treated well by this planet. Or this is our home. If it's our home, then we have to build it in a way so that we can hand it over to our next generation, a more beautiful home than we found itself. So each generation will be handing out the planet to the next generation, a better world than they have inherited themselves. And once we do that, all these questions will fall in place. The question is, what is our role in this planet? This is what we'd like to know. And the question of poverty, again, poverty is not created by poor people. Poverty is created by the system. All human beings are endowed with enormous capabilities, enormous potentials. But they don't even know that because they don't have a chance to unwrap the gift each one of us have inside of us. So who gives this opportunity? Society doesn't give it. So today, poverty I'm describing as like a bonsai tree, poor people. That you have to take a seed of a tree, tall tree, and put it in a flower pot, and it grows only this big. There's nothing wrong with the seed. I tell that poverty, poor people is just like the bonsai people. There's nothing wrong with the seed, but the society doesn't give them the space on which to grow tall. This is the problem with us. And we started something, Grameen Bank, giving small loans, tiny loans to the poor people, because nobody gives any financial services to the poor people. And everybody said it cannot be done. Today, it's a reality, it can be done. And every banking norm says it's impossible, you cannot do that. We are doing that without collateral, without guarantee, without any lawyers involved in it. And it works. So we kind of reverse the whole banking system, put it upside down. They go to the rich, we go to the poor. They go to men, we go to women. They are owned by the rich people. This bank is owned by the poor women. And no guarantee, no collateral, etc., etc. But works beautifully. And today it has spread all over the world. Still repayment rate is 99%, 98%, 100%, all over the world. It's not Bangladesh. People used to say maybe Bangladesh is a strange country. The whole world is strange. So we have to... We're just talking about the distrust and all this. We have built a system on trust. There's nothing else but mutual trust between lender and the borrower, and it works. So the trust is still a valid thing. It's not something that you can forget. You don't have to tie everything down with kind of legal jargons and so on, otherwise everything will slip away. We give loans to beggars. We go around, talk to the beggars. So as you go from house to house, would you carry some merchandise with you, some little toys, sweets, whatever anybody would like to buy from you? And you can do both, beg and sell. If selling works, you go for it, and we give them the loan. Initially, we thought we'll have 2,000, 3,000 beggars in that program. Today, we have over 100,000 beggars in that program. Loan is about $15, $20. That's about the loan. And out of these 100,000 borrowers that we have, the beggars we have, more than 10,000 stopped begging completely because they became salesperson, door-to-door salesperson. Remaining 90,000 that we have, they are sort of a part-time beggars now because they are more those who are impatient to see all of them convert themselves into door-to-door salesperson overnight, I tell my colleagues that you have to give them a little bit of space because they are in the process of closing down their begging division and then kind of strengthen their sales division. So it's a restructuring of the business. It takes a little bit of time. So the point I'm making, all human beings are basically entrepreneurs. Simply, we have not designed a system which will empower that so that everybody can take care of themselves. If we redesign our system drastically, nobody will remain a poor person. Take the concept of business. Only concept of business we have in the world is business to make money. They presented, the theoretician presented as if all human beings are money-making machines or money-making robots. We are not money-making robots. We are human beings. We are human beings, we enjoy making money. At the same time, we enjoy doing good to other people. That prospect is entirely denied within the theoretical framework. So we need to redesign our theory. We treat as a human being. We want to change our own world, and that has to be incorporated in our business world too. Business should be two kinds. One to make money, another business to do good to people. So once we can do good to people through that business, we can change all the things we are talking about today. And once we can incorporate that, nobody in the world will remain poor. Today, with the United Nations Millennium Development Goal of reducing poverty by half by 2015, we are on the way to reduce it. Bangladesh will be one of those countries who will reduce poverty by half by 2015, and there will be many others. Real challenge is, when are we going to reduce it to zero? There will be no person in the whole world should remain a poor person. There's no reason to, because it's not in the human being. It's imposed on the human being. So if it is not in the human being, why should anybody be poor? So we should be ready to create that world with nobody remaining poor person and create poverty museums so that anybody after that who would like to know about poverty has to go to the museum because there is no poverty in the world. This is a total insult to humanity to accept poverty because human beings are not created to be a poor person. Human being is an enormous creative person. Why should a creative person should remain a poor person? So this is a challenge, and poverty is also a threat to peace, overall peace that we are talking about. Poverty is a breeding ground for discontent and violence. So we have to see in totality, the whole thing fits into the same. We have to redesign the system so that everybody has a chance to create their own world and be proud of being a human being. Thank you very much.
Good morning, everyone. I think that the documents you have before you are very important documents. I do believe if we took seriously what is within these documents, that we really could transform our world. We are currently on a road to disaster if we continue down many of the policies. War on terror, war, nuclear weapons, conflict within communities. This area will lead us into more and more violence, more and more destruction. We were never told there was so much security, and yet people feel so insecure. You turn on the television in any area of the world, and it's watched by little children, and we are all traumatized by what we are witnessing, war and poverty and disaster around the world. People are beginning to feel frightened. They're beginning to feel afraid. They're beginning to feel there is no way forward and no hope. I think it behoves us all to transfer those feelings into feelings of hope, feelings of belief in ourselves, feelings of belief in each other, an absolute conviction that we can change what is wrong in our societies and build proper societies and a proper world. If you read this document, it gives the steps to help us and the principles, because we have international laws. We have all the tools we need to implement the Millennium Goals and to change many things in our society. But what we need is the real conviction, the real dedication, the real courage to say to our political and spiritual leaders, we can find a way through this, but will only be done through dialogue, through having the greatest humility to listen to each other, to accept our differences, to have respect for one another, to reach out to help those in less fortunate situations with a greater commitment and generosity. This document, read section 13. What is our vision? And this is not going to happen overnight. This will only happen when every person in this room and everyone in the world commits to being a person of peace. Peace starts in your head. You have to disarm the anger, disarm the violence, disarm the unforgiveness, and replace it with love and compassion and mercy and belief in yourself as a human being and belief in each other. Section 13 challenges us to build a non-killing, non-violent world. Why do you say that's a utopia and that cannot happen? That is why we were born. We were born to live life, enjoy it, be happy, celebrate it. When men and women around the world look at every child and see in the eyes of that child their own child, then we will not send armies out to kill other children, and we will not allow other children to die of poverty, hunger, and disease, while we are greedy and selfish, self-centered, self-interested, and refuse to be compassionate. This document spells out a vision. It is revolutionary. It is a challenge for the human family to move on to another road. It won't happen tomorrow because we being human, we need time. We being human, we need to respect each other. We being human, we need to understand that sometimes in very dire, desperate situations, a young person decides to be a suicide bomber. We need to have the deepest understanding of what takes them into that despair. And it is the roots of what takes them into that despair we must change, not demonize those who fall into despair. So it is a wonderful document. And I'm very happy to be here under the great leadership of a great spirit and a great man, President Gorbachev, who for years has been leading us in this attempt to try to articulate some small steps forward to building a non-violent, a non-killing, civilized human family.
There is for the historical record, it was Professor Zagladin who, may he rest in peace, had the original vision for this charter, and he was instrumental in making this happen. It is also very important that the city of Rome, and particularly its mayor, Mayor Veltroni, who has co-hosted this conference, be fully honored and respected for the work that he has done to make this happen and the hospitality of the people of Rome. Before I open this up to the press for questions, I want to say that His Holiness the Dalai Lama and President Gorbachev have planes to catch, and they will not be able to stay past 10:30. And therefore, I ask that the questions be focused and pointed so that we have adequate time. So if members of the press could identify yourselves and pose your questions. Yes, ma'am. Is there a microphone, please? Thank you.
I am from Burmese Media, Democratic Voice of Burma, radio and television based in Oslo. I'd like to ask Mr. Gorbachev, you are here with your colleagues, Nobel Peace Laureates, trying to approve a charter for a world without violence, but there has been violence in Burma. Burmese young people are suffering a lot, struggling for democracy and human rights. My question is, do you think Burmese young generation are having peaceful life without violence in the future? What are you going to do to help them to stay with peace?
Я сначала не понял вопрос. Все то, что мы делаем здесь, в рамках форума лауреатов Нобелевской премии, оно связано как раз с проблемами насущными сегодня и которые будут актуальны завтра. Мы здесь выступали против иракской войны и высказывали свои мнения, как урегулировать конфликт. Мы здесь принимали обращения к правительствам и странам списать долги развивающихся стран, которые не могут обеспечить решение проблем, связанных с борьбой с бедностью. Ну, много чего мы сделали здесь и обращались, чтобы беспокоить всех тех, от кого зависит ситуация в мире. Что касается наших коллег, лауреатов Нобелевской премии, которые сегодня из-за абсолютно абсурдной, непонятной позиции по каким-то политическим соображениям выступают, вернее, не дают возможность нашим коллегам участвовать в этой работе, и самое главное, не лишают их возможности, которым дал комитет по премиям, а именно звание лауреата Нобелевской премии ко многому обязывает, и каждый из нас должен, насколько у него хватает сил и возможностей, вести борьбу по всем направлениям и везде. В данном случае мы решительно осуждаем такую позицию, и мы вчера и еще раз приняли такое обращение к властям с требованием освободить.
I think it would be pertinent to, we've been going so fast and we had to work so long to get the charter done, and these very important questions that certainly will, if answered fully, address much of the world's problems. And I must say that we didn't try to answer the questions, what plans to address poverty, but we have plans, the Millennium Development Goals as a minimum, make the commitment. We all know the plans on the environment and to protect the climate, and we certainly know the Nuclear Non-Proliferation Treaty and the steps to come to a nuclear weapons-free world. We have answers, but we feel that politicians must be challenged, and that was our most important. And the other important was to get this charter out, to set a compass point. But there is a statement that I want to read that we have agreed to. We, the Nobel laureates, urge the Security Council to play an active and constructive role in facilitating the immediate release of our fellow sister, Daw Aung San Suu Kyi, and make sure that the dialogue with the SPDC is put into action. The imprisoned monks and political prisoners must be released, and the students who for 2 decades have been denied access to the closed and prohibited universities must be given the opportunity to study in order to secure the next generation's participation and survival. Burma is the only country in the world where the next generation is not allowed to fully study. And we have all agreed that the deprivation of human rights of the people of Burma is a deprivation of human rights of all of us, that their quest for freedom is our quest for freedom, and that not allowing people to assemble peacefully and to express their views poses a danger to all of us. So it is their freedom that we agree is our freedom. Next question, please.
Can I ask the only question, and that's it? For Russian news agency that was...
Одну минуту. Я должен уехать уже. 3 минуты назад я должен уехать. Поэтому прошу прощения, извинить. До свидания. Благодарю всех.
If you would take your seats, we can still take some more questions from the press. You're 10 minutes. We will continue for another 10 minutes. Oh, I'm sorry. Betty Williams had some comments about Myanmar,
I just wanted
please.
to follow up on the question of Burma. I did an interview with this young lady the other day, and she's obviously got a magnificent heart and is really concerned about Aung San Suu Kyi, as are we all. I don't know whether many of you in the room will know that we have formed the Nobel Women's Initiative, consisting of the 6 female laureates, Jodie Williams, Mairead Corrigan Maguire, Sharina Badi, Wangari Maathai, Rigoberto Menchú and myself have come together to help women in the world. One of our top priorities is the freedom of Aung San Suu Kyi. It's only when Aung San Suu Kyi is free that Burma will be free. She's the democratically elected leader. 83% of the vote went. No man in the world has ever taken that kind of landslide. And I suggest that anybody referring to the country of Myanmar, there is no such country. It is Burma. And we will all fight for Aung San Suu Kyi's freedom. This year we applied for Burmese visas to go see her. But of course we were refused. We will continue to do that. We will continue to try our best to get into Burma. And the day that Aung San Suu Kyi is freed, I will be standing outside her door.
We focused our deliberations on the theme of what kind of a world are we passing on to the next generation. Are we passing on a world that is sustainable, where for some the issue is what to do with the garbage, and for others merely surviving means picking through garbage? Can we survive in a world in which our economic order does not honor the limits and balance of nature? Can we survive in a world where some say nuclear weapons are good for us and not good for others? So our questions arise from those questions, because we know that if we're going to pass on a world to the next generation, these questions must be asked. So we urge all of the participants, especially the enormous networks of the Nobel Peace Laureate organizations, the activist organizations, American Friends Service Committee, Amnesty International, International Peace Bureau, International Physicians for the Prevention of Nuclear War, and others which are really working at a grassroots level to get these questions asked, to force the politicians to give us their plans, instead of the trivial questions where people are thinking locally and acting globally. We have to see the whole picture because we are interconnected as never before. And I'd like to honor some of the youth that are here and see if any of them would like to pose any of their questions to our panel to close this session with some youth posing questions that are relevant to them. And I know there are some really bright young people here. Is there a microphone? Come on up.
Dear Nobel Prize laureates, experts and specialists, and guests, my name is Kasturi Jivaharan, and this is Ole Christian Rischel, and we are from St. Olav Upper Secondary School, which is in Stavanger, Norway. We are here to represent the Norwegian delegation.
It has been a great honor for us participating in this summit. All of you have inspired and motivated us, making a change to the world. As Dalai Lama said yesterday, this century should be the century of peace and dialogues, and the youths are responsible for making this happen. Unfortunately, many youths in this world don't have the freedom of speech, like the youths wanting democracy in Burma and the poor children in Africa. And we, who are so lucky to be heard, have to support and give a voice to the voiceless.
Next year, in September 2008, the summit will be in Stavanger, in Norway. The main topic will be dialogue, conflict solution, and reconciliation in a global perspective. We will focus on involving the students and listening to their thoughts and ideas. And with these words, we want to welcome all of you to attend the summit in Stavanger to motivate and inspire the next generation. Thank you.
We would urge that the press include in your reporting ample quotes from the Charter on Nonviolence, and particularly the challenging questions to political candidates of all the countries of the world, including my own, the United States. Every world leader and political candidate has to answer these questions, because these are questions that are not being answered. These are questions that are not being answered, and they're questions that affect, and the answers to them affect all of us. And also, ample quotes from the Charter on Nonviolence, because if anything can be learned from the Nobel Peace Laureates, it is that when there is a vision of peace, when there is a principle that peace can be achieved, sometimes the miraculous can happen. They are living examples of people who have reached for a vision beyond the rest of us and found that it has been achieved. So let it be known from their example that we also, as citizens, should put forward a vision that takes us to a higher level of our own humanity and reach for it. Thank you very much.